Okay, I would like to call this meeting to order. Roxanne, I would note that all counselors are present.
Okay.
That'll save you from calling the roll. We have no presentations. Are there any residents or property owners who would like to speak at this time? Hearing none. I don't believe there are any commission board reports. I don't see anyone present. Comments of town councilors. Anyone have anything good to say? Well, I shouldn't say it that way. Does anybody have anything to say? My positive self coming out. Andra.
I do. Actually, I was going to report under the Board of Education liaison time slot. I was going to report on the Ledyard's participation in the teacher residency program. But since I see that Superintendent Hartling is on, I wonder if he was coming to speak on that. And if now would be a good moment for that.
He's certainly welcome to. I believe he's here for item number 4 on the agenda.
Okay.
I would assume. Mr. Hartling, would you like to say something on the program that Andra referred to?
I think Ms. Ingalls has it squared away. I was, as you said, Ms. Davis here for the item 4, but if I can add anything to what Andra has to say, I'm happy to do so if she wants me to.
Okay. Any other town councilors have anything to add? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve prior meeting minutes of January 27th.
So moved, Councilor Washington.
Second, Councilor Dombrowski.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any comments, discussion? Hearing none. Roxanne, would you call the roll?
Mr. Sebelia,
Yes.
Mr. Soms,
Yes.
Mr. Washington,
Yes.
Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Dombrowski,
Yes.
Mrs. Ingalls,
Yes.
Mr. Malone,
Yes.
Mr. Marshall,
Yes.
Mrs. McGrattan. Mary, you're muted.
Her mouth said yes.
Okay, 9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you. Okay, communications referrals on the portal. We'll move on to subcommittee reports. Admin.
The administration committee met earlier this evening. We have a reappointment on the agenda for tonight. We discussed the tax exemption for farm building and made a recommendation for a public hearing in March.
Okay. Any questions for admin? Mary, the recommendation for Farmers Market Committee, the Farmers Market Group, the chairman was going to talk to her, but they haven't been able to catch up.
Okay.
Once they've had a chance to talk and she is aware of how much time commitment is involved and is okay with that, then we'll move that forward at the next meeting.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Yes.
Community relations, Mike?
Just really short, 2 things. One was we had a discussion on the resolution. It died on the vine, and about we had a discussion about doing a resolution as putting forth a resolution to the town council regarding notice that all the services provided by the town are something that should be available to all members of the town, but it didn't make any sense, so it died on the vine, because it should be just understood that if you live in the town, you're a resident of the town, all the services that are available to be provided to you shall be provided to you if you qualify. And then the other discussion was they were looking to the Massachusetts Pequot Tribal Nation, had asked to know what our specific position was relative to the school board and its diversity and inclusion committee and their status. We are still looking at that, and we're going to reach out to the school. With more likely, we'll get something already coming back from the school board on that issue, just to see what their position is. But it's really already done in policy. We're just looking to get it from them in a formal manner. That's it.
Okay, I did have a question because I have to admit, I'm still confused about the resolution that didn't become a resolution, because I don't know how you're defining you have to live in the town.
Well, it would be reasonable to believe that if you're a resident of the town and you live on town property and it's taxable town land,
Okay,
that you're entitled to the services.
okay, but that was where the confusion was, that I was hoping we would get a resolution about.
Well,
Because that was where the issue came.
I think from the discussions with the Mashantucket Pequot Tribal Nation, they made it very abundantly clear that the reservation property and such was not part of the town. And therefore, based on that discussion, did not see a reason to forward the resolution on that topic.
Okay, so in 10 years from now, Mike, you're going to remember that, right? When we call you up and say, how did we resolve this? Because
I can't remember lunch.
I don't think it's resolved. I mean, I think we're all saying, okay, we all agree with that premise, but this is exactly what got us into the problem to begin with.
I find it hard. The problem is if you look at the land or the Mashantucket Pequot Tribal Nation, and since they're a sovereign nation and they're not subject to the town laws and the town ordinances and such, because they're a sovereign nation, I'm not sure how somebody who lives on the tribal land has any right to ask for services from the town, since they're not a member of the town, because by their own accord, they live on their own sovereign nation.
But they tend our schools.
Yep, and we actually getting reimbursed for them to attend here. It'd be no different than going to NFA. It's a school choice. I can bring it back to the committee for review, but I'm not sure. I'm having trouble seeing that value, given the fact that
So Mike,
Go ahead.
maybe I can jump in. I was pretty vocal. My feeling was we have spent so much time on this to take the council through drafting and writing and voting on a resolution for what is basically a town service, just like any other town service. We felt the town and the councilors have spent enough time on it. We have a long history of paper trail. It's very clear from the tribe that they have withdrawn whatever instructions they may have given in the past, and we thought it would be best just to put it to rest and move on to other things. That was my position, at least.
Okay,
We do have enough paper trail. I know what you're saying, Linda, about the resolution.
well,
But
I honestly, until tonight, did not know how it actually got it resolved, and I was at the meeting.
No, I thought we were relatively clear on that. We weren't going to do a resolution, and that the Councilor Butler was very clear from the perspective that if a member of the tribe resides on tribal property, they're not subject to any of the services of the town. And conversely to that, if a member of the tribe lives on non-tribal land within the town of Ledyard, then they would be afforded the services of the town that they were able to qualify for.
Okay, and I get that. Is that in the minutes?
That would be in the minutes and discussion. I will go and double check and double check on that. But that was the discussion, and the Councilor Butler, tribal chairman, agreed, and he was very happy the fact we weren't going to do the resolution, and that he was in agreement that the services provided to members of the tribe who live on town land that are subject to town taxes and such they would be subject to be able to get services. But if they did not live on town land subject to town control, like if they lived on part of the reservation, they had no opportunity or no ability to seek town services.
Okay. And if that's clear in the minutes, I'm good with that. Because like you say, that was part of the problem the last time. So,
I will double check, Counselor
thank
Davis.
you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for community relations? Finance, Bill.
Finance, this is Counselor Psalms. Finance met last Wednesday, and during the finance director's report, we complimented the finance director, noting that Ledyard was not on the list of towns in the newspaper that were reported as late in completing their audits due to the COVID panic, or pandemic. Panic may be right. The finance director commented that Ledyard's strategy of investing in technology made it easy for the auditors to access town records, even though not all of the auditors were able to be on site to conduct the audit. So the Finance Committee would like to recognize the Town Council, especially Chairman Davis and the IT Committee, which no longer exists, but did a lot of work establishing a vision 10 years ago to use technology to reduce the use of paper and improve access to town information by putting budgets, motions, ordinances, forms, applications, and more online. The Town MIS Department, the Council Administrative Assistant, and town employees continue to carry out this work today, with substantial savings for the taxpayers through increases in employee productivity, as well as reductions in tax dollars spent on paper and office supplies. So I thought it was just a good thing to note that work that was done and continues today. We are waiting for, both the Finance and the Admin Committee are waiting for a response from the Ledyard Housing Authority on the town's proposal to reduce the authority's pilot rate. And we understand the authority may want to meet with the town again after their March meeting. So we put, or at least considered, several scenarios for reductions in the pilot rate. And now we're just waiting for them to come back and tell us what they want to do. And that's my report. Everything else is on the agenda.
Thank you. Mary?
They are going to come to the Finance Committee meeting on March 17th.
Great.
Any other questions for finance? Moving on to land use.
Land use met last week. Other than the two items that are on the agenda for later this evening, we started looking at the hunting ordinance on town, which allows bow hunting on certain town properties. With the town meeting where we voted to transfer the property of the former Founders Preserve over to Avalonia, we started looking at that ordinance to see how we could put that in there, because one of the agreements of transferring that property was to be able to maintain hunting on that property. So we've got to rewrite the ordinance because it's no longer town. It would be no longer town property. So we need to clarify that it wouldn't be owned by the town, but that hunting would be allowed on that property in the same manner it is today. So we started looking at that.
Good.
And that is my report.
Any questions for land use? Other reports, other liaison reports. Andra?
Okay, for the Board of Education, I want to share with everybody about the teacher residency program. So this is something that Learn is partnering with the Capital Region Education Council to bring the teacher residency program to Southeastern Connecticut. It's a partnership that will empower smaller school districts like Ledyard. It offers a recruitment and training program that would be nearly impossible for a smaller district like Ledyard to create on its own. Data demonstrates that Connecticut has a significant gap between the number of students of color and teachers of color. According to Connecticut State Department of Education data, almost 44% of the state's public school students are of color. However, only 8.4% of teachers are. So this program will support the State Department of Education's goal of 1,000 new teachers of color by 2021. So Learn is investing $45,000 to launch and coordinate this program in Southeastern Connecticut. partnering with member public school districts to provide this career opportunity. The model removes financial burdens by paying residents during their year of working and learning alongside a mentor teacher. These mentor teachers provide on-the-job training and support to residents who must complete coursework in the summer and evening classes during the school year. Upon successful completion of the program, as well as passing certification exams, participants will be eligible for full-time teaching positions in the participating school district. Once teachers are hired by their host district, the program will continue to provide support and guidance throughout the first year of their new career. Ledyard is proud to be sponsoring 2 residents in the teacher residency program. Learn and the other participating RESCs across the state are still actively recruiting more districts for the first cohort, which is scheduled to begin this summer. The teacher residency program is open to applicants who have earned a bachelor's degree and demonstrate a strong commitment to children. It is currently limited to elementary school teaching candidates, but may expand to other age groups and content areas over the next few years. The application period for residents opened on January 4th. So interested applicants can visit the program website for more information, and I'll put that address in the chat. And at this point, I would ask if Superintendent Hartling has anything to add about that. And also, I just want to correct something Councilor Washington mentioned about being reimbursed for tribal students. It's not that, that's not how it works, but I would really, it's far more complicated, and I think Superintendent Hartling could speak to that way better than I can.
Well, good evening. So I think that was a great summary of the program. One thing I'd just say is that I'm particularly excited to open up another avenue to bring excellent educators into Ledyard. I really think highly of career changing people who come into the education field after having changed careers. Myself, I did that. You know, this opens up a whole new venue of people and opportunity for us to bring in amazing talent while increasing the diversity of our district staffing team. And we've been working on this, you know, on about 2.5 years now, our human capital plan. And this is just another opportunity for us to continue to make sure that we're bringing in the absolute best for our students, it's just a really exciting program. We were one of the initial adopters, and we're going to keep moving forward with that in our partnership with Learn.
Okay, Mary?
Yes. Does the person that you're considering have to live in Ledyard? And if not, are there any funding for this person for rent or mortgage or anything?
So that's a great question. No, they do not. One of the things that I've probably sent about 20 emails over to our friends at the Tribal Nation is, I would be really excited to open this opportunity to members of the Mashantucket Tribal Nation. But no, we don't provide, rent, room. It's a real job. And they, they'll get, the program wants people to be from the communities that they're serving.
Okay.
And I've also pushed this out to team members who may be support staff that would be interested in transitioning because they have a degree into a classroom position. So it's not kind of a relocate and
Okay.
jump in. It's the ideal is somebody in our community who's passionate about working with kids and knows our kids and wants to be part of this family. So
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, any other liaison reports? John? You're muted, John.
Oh, so I am. Building committee met Monday in a special meeting. We've begun the process to close out the middle school project. There's not much left on the punch list, like 10 items. They've already done like 30 to 40, and there's a walkthrough, I believe, today to verify those items were done. to a satisfactory level. The meeting today was also on the issues of the paint in the hallway. And they're working on some ceiling tiles falling out that they believe were installed incorrectly. It's an installation issue. I get with Steve Juskowitz on that. It's not the issue that the superintendent was talking about. Gallup Hill, the room temperature downstairs has improved. It's gotten warmer because I've done some work upstairs, and that's pushing the heat down into lower units, and it's been much better. There's no update on the punch list yet as to where we're at. Slight issue with the boilers over the weekend. They both shut down due to a calibration error. They've been recalibrated, and that's working fine now. Still working on a couple of roof leaks, still chasing them around. And there's still the issue with the sprinkler head in the unheated vestibule area. Their solution on the weekend for now is leave the inside door open, but you can't do that during the week because it creates a security issue because it's an airlock system. The fire marshal suggests going with a dry head. We'll have more information on that next week. And Wayne Donaldson touched briefly on installing a solar panel system on Juliet Long and the Gales Ferry School. And that is my report.
Thank you. Any questions for John? Steve Juskowitz will be attending a meeting in the future, next couple of meetings, I believe. March, first meeting in March. Is that right, Roxanne? Yep.
Yes, March 10th.
Okay, thank you. Any other liaison reports? Mine is just that opening day of the farmers market is June 2nd. And they are hoping to bring back kids' activities and entertainment again. So we'll look forward to that and hope we have more of a normal year than we did last year, although it certainly was well attended last year. Moving on to the mayor's report. I do have a report of the mayor and even have added some things that I have information of since he wrote this up. A lot of good information, got a lot of favorable information here. First of all, the governor's budget is out and it was pretty favorable to Ledyard, so that's good news. We'll get more details on that. Ledgelight Health District continues to report a decrease in reported cases for the third consecutive reporting period. I think Jim Mann called me today and he said that we have not had a case in Ledyard in the past 5 days. And that's like a first since October. So things are looking better. And also if you track the hospitalizations, they were way down in New London County. We were up around 100 and now we're down. I think this afternoon we were at 45. So that's all good news. The state did open, you're probably all aware, vaccinations who's 65 and over. A number of different organizations are doing those. So if you know someone 65 and over, heck, some of us are 65 and over. I won't point those folks out though. You'll see lots of opportunities online. And let's see, some more good news. The van grant is moving along and they're expecting delivery in April of the new van. Okay, the not so good news. Randy Dalton is retiring after 28 years.
Wow.
He's been with the town, that's a long time. And obviously we thank him and the job has been posted, but if you happen to see Randy, thank him for his service. The mayor's assistant has also taken a job. Well, I shouldn't say also has taken a job because he has not taken a job. The mayor's assistant has taken a job elsewhere and they are currently seeking applications for that. The mayor met with on site at Fawn Drive with 13 residents in Eversource regarding the easement work. If you remember, there was a lot of complaining about the tree cutting, etc. So he felt it was a very productive meeting. So he he did report on that. He is still discussing the Lantern Hill Bridge with Stonington. And back to good news, the senior grant that we authorized just last meeting has already been approved, and they'll have their new card reader in place in the next month to track attendance, etc. And then he had a final public service reminder that ice on the lakes and ponds are not safe. 2 kids fell through the ice at Highland Lakes in the last few days. Thankfully okay, but just a public service announcement that the ice is just not safe yet. And that is the mayor's report. Now, what I would like to do, well, let me say there is no old business. Would anybody like to add anything to new business? Hearing none, what I'd like to do, with your permission, is move item number 4 to item number 1. Is that good for you, Mr. Hartling?
Yes, ma'am. Much appreciated.
Okay. You are now item number 1. Take it away.
So this is Councilor Storm.
Yeah, perfect.
So we need a motion, right?
No, you don't.
Councilor Storm.
You don't need a motion.
No, you need to make the motion. You need to make the motion now.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I thought you were going to make a motion on moving the item. Okay.
No, I wanted to read the
no,
motion before.
Go
we
ahead
vote
and make
on
the
it.
motion
Okay.
now. Yes.
All right. So Councilor Storms moves to transfer $57,000 from account 101-88210-59300 transferred funds to 210-1402-47009 CNR miscellaneous revenue. Appropriate $57,000 to account 210-70101-58261 BOE CNR Ag Sci, and authorize the Board of Ed to spend up to $57,000 for standing roof barn and air conditioning system. It's a standing seam roof, barn roof, and air conditioning system as detailed in their letter of January 11, 2021. In addition, upon receipt of final fiscal year 21 Ag Sci grant funding, transfer $102,728 from account 101-88210-59300 transferred funds to 210-1402-49007 CNR miscellaneous revenue, and appropriate $102,728 to 210-70101-58261 Board of Ed CNR Ag Sci.
Counselor Ingalls seconds.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion, Mr. Psalms or Mr. Hartling?
Yes.
We need a
So I'll lay some of the groundwork just on how we handled this motion. We made some minor changes to the wording to clarify it. But from the original motion, we were going to spend some money, and it was unclear as to when we were going to get money. So the background is the Board of Ed is receiving $157,000 more in ASTE Ag Science grant funding than we budgeted. And that money has to be spent on the Ag Sci program. So the Board of Ed has worked, put their heads together to come up with 2 projects that they know they needed to do. They're not in the SIP plan, but the board, the barn is 12 years old, and they came to us with a used roof, so they knew they needed to do that. They also know that the VOAG wing of the high school it has the infrastructure in place for air conditioning, but it doesn't have air conditioning. So again, this money has to be spent somewhere for VOAG, and we also talked about in the future putting projects like this, even if we don't have the money, putting them in the capital plan so that we have some time to cogitate, if you will, and know that these are projects that are coming. A good example of that would be the work that we did on the high school track. We've known for years we needed to spend that money and repair that track. So it gave everyone a chance to get used to the idea and contemplate solutions. So I'll stop there and turn it over to the superintendent if I haven't said too much.
No, Councilman Psalms, I think you summed it up as well as I could have. I'm just here to support this motion and answer any questions that councilors may have. But as always, you've got it well wired, and I think you summarized it perfectly.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Soms or Mr. Hartman? Hearing none, Roxanne, would you call the roll? Roxanne, you're muted.
Okay. Mr. Dombrowski,
Yes.
Mrs. Engel,
Yes.
Mr. Malone,
Yes.
Mr. Marshall,
Yes.
Mrs. McGrattan,
Yes.
Mr. Sebelia,
Yes.
Mr. Soms,
Yes.
Mr. Washington,
Yes.
Mrs. Davis,
Yes,
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
motion carries. Okay, we'll now move to
Thank you.
admin, which is now item number 2.
Okay, I make a motion to reappoint Hillary Evans, Democrat, a Democrat, 1538 Route 12, Gales Ferry, to the Legend Housing Authority for a 5-year term ending March 31st, 2026.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. This is just a reappointment.
Yes.
Roxanne, would you call the roll?
Mr. Soms,
Yes.
Mr. Washington,
Yes.
Mrs. Davis,
Yes,
Mr. Dombrowski,
Yes.
Mr. Engel, Mrs. Engel.
Yes. It's been a while since you've done that, Roxanne.
I must be getting tired. Mr. Malone,
Yes.
Mr. Marshall,
Yes.
Mrs. McGrattan,
Yes.
Mr. Sebelia,
Yes.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
motion carries. Finance, item number 3.
This is Councilor Solms. I move to authorize the mayor to submit a grant application to the federal fiscal year 2020 Assistance to Firefighters Grant Program for the purpose of obtaining portable radio equipment in the amount of $559,407. In addition, transfer $27,970.35 from account 2112-0901-59300 ambulance fund transfers out to account number 2101402-47009 TNR miscellaneous revenue, and appropriate $27,970.35 of 5% local match to account 210204001-57300 AES new equipment.
Council Malone seconds.
Discussion.
Thank you. So if this sounds familiar and redundant, we have done this before. We applied for the same grant last year. Unfortunately, the federal government ran out of funds before we got in under the wire, so we did not get the money. But what we're doing is replacing the existing single band radios with tri-band radios, which allow our firefighters and emergency personnel to communicate with their portable radios to surrounding towns for mutual aid, and also with the Connecticut State Police. These are portable radios. They have a mic on them, or a portable mic on them, so that they don't have to reach for the radio to speak on it. Motorola is a good brand. It's a lot of money, and our cost is going to be $27,000 for $560,000 worth of equipment. So we voted on this in the past. It's a good program. We're hopeful that this time we'll get the money. And Administrator of Emergency Services, Steve Holyfield, is here, and he took some training and rewrote the grant and took advantage of that training. So we are hopeful that it might come in at a higher level and get us the money this time around. So our thanks to Mr. Holyfield.
Very good. Any questions of Mr. Soms? Kevin?
I just have one quick question. I don't know if it was but fiscal year 2020 ended in October. Is that the right grant?
It is. They actually, the federal government calls it the 2020. They're using money from the past year to carry this program on. So, for instance, last year's was the fiscal year 2019.
Gotcha.
But it is direct out of their notice of funding.
Okay, nope, that's just wanted to be sure. That's all. Thank you.
Good catch. Thank you.
Any other questions? Roxanne, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Washington,
Yes.
Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Dombrowski,
Yes.
Mrs. Engel,
Yes.
Mr. Malone,
Yes.
Mr. Marshall,
Yes.
Mrs. McGrattan,
yes,
Mr. Sebelia,
yes,
Mr. Somm,
Yes.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Motion carries. Next item.
I move to authorize the mayor to submit a grant application to the federal FY 2020 Assistant Firefighters Grant Program for the purpose of a breathing air compressor system in the amount of $75,084.55. In addition, authorize payment of $3,754.23, a 5% local match from account 210-20501-57300 CNR LFD new equipment.
Is there a second?
Council Malone seconds.
Discussion.
So our present heavy rescue vehicle in Ledyard, at Ledyard Fire Company, has a vehicle-mounted breathing air filling station. I believe it actually just carries cylinders, and they have to run the vehicle down to Gales Ferry to fill the air canisters. This is breathing air for firefighters. The long-term plan that the town is working on for vehicle replacement does not include the heavy rescue. And so we need a place to actually fill and store breathing air canisters. So the plan is, rather than have it mounted on a truck as a carrier, put a compressor in Ledyard, and then we won't have to send trucks down to Gales Ferry to have air canisters filled. Councilor Malone was very helpful in this. He had some specific questions about the type of equipment. I think they passed the grade. And again, Mr. Holyfield is here to answer questions, as is Greg DeBoer.
Any questions?
This is Councilor Washington. Councilor Soms, you mentioned that they have air filling capacity at the Gales Ferry Firehouse.
Correct.
I just want to understand, if they have the capacity there, what drives the need to have it in Ledyard if they can fill in Gales Ferry?
So they run the canisters down. And Steve, feel free to jump in any minute.
Yeah, I can fill that if you want.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, please.
So right now, the way it stands, as Councilor Soms mentioned, the air filling station on Rescue 17 is exclusively an air filling station. There's no compressor. That vehicle has to be driven to Gales Ferry and then connected to Gales Ferry's compressor to refill that. And one of the issues that we have is you're now taking one of the career staff during the day and tying them up on a rescue that's now physically attached to a building down at the other end of town. Our evaluation was that, in terms of, if Ledyard has a training and they want to be able to fill cylinders, they can then do that in-house. And also it keeps our career staff deployed where they're optimally set to be deployed, so that we're not leaving one career firefighter during the daytime at Ledyard while the other one's tied up in Gales Ferry. We figured that with the assistance of firefighter grant and it being only a 5% match, that the town share of, I think it was $3,700 or $3,800 was a small price to pay in order to get that technology up at Ledyard and to keep the staffing levels where they need to be in times when we would need to fill the cylinders. It also presents an issue because we're really not supposed to be putting basically empty air cylinders in the back of a pickup truck and not securing them. So at any rate, they would have to take an apparatus down there with a number of air cylinders. And, it's just not good practice to have these things kind of rolling around and kicking around in the back of an apparatus or in the back of a pickup truck. They really need to be secured, and they can actually, if one of them were to fall out and hit the ground, they could kind of become missiles, and we'd prefer not to have that sort of a black eye in emergency services in town if there were an incident that happened like that.
Nope, that's a perfect explanation. Thank you.
Quite welcome. Thank you.
Any other questions? Roxanne, would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Dombrowski,
Yes.
Mrs. Ingles,
Yes.
Mr. Malone,
Yes.
Mr. Marshall,
Yes.
Mrs. McGrattan,
Yes.
Mr. Sebelia,
Yes.
Mr. Soms,
Yes.
Mr. Washington.
Yes.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Motion carries. Next item, Kevin.
I make a motion to authorize the mayor to enter an agreement with the town of Stonington for repairs to the Lantern Hill Road Bridge over Whitford Brook.
There's a second.
Second, Councilor Washington.
Okay, so this is, I think we've all heard a lot of this about this one, the bridge on Lantern Hill Road. To go in the Lantern Hill Road, I should say, is in, we've seen the letter from the engineering firm that that Stonington had hired that put the bridge at a reduced capacity with the recommendation to close the bridge. As we all know, there've been discussions about possibility doing a limited funding to keep the bridge maintained to keep where it is now. I know that our public works directors has talked to possibly see if we get Stonington to go back to fully funding the repair of this bridge to bring it back up to the full spec. So this simply authorizes the mayor to start those negotiations with the town of Stonington to get this bridge back in the track so we can figure how to go, what the best path forward to repair this bridge is.
Any discussion or questions? Bill?
We talked about this in finance too, and there was recently an article in the New London Day that it looks like the cost of the temporary repair has escalated from 100,000 to 137,000, if I've got my numbers right. And if I recall correctly, the cost for a total bridge replacement is only $800,000. And there's a letter in the documents attached from the Old Mystic Fire District, which talks about response times to homes north of that bridge. And Old Mystic can presently get their equipment there more quickly than Ledyard Fire Company just because they're closer. But if we reduce service on that bridge by putting a weight limit on it, closing it, or otherwise, they will have to go around, and it increases the response time by 10 minutes, which is enough to cause a total loss of a house. My personal opinion is that we not only need to work together with the town of Stonington to fix this bridge, it's a much better deal to fix it for good by replacing it rather than a temporary fix, which might incur a weight limit, and we'd be right back there with the price would probably double by the time the 10 years is up. So I think we need to do this.
Any other comments? Roxanne, would you call the roll?
Mrs. Ingles,
Yes.
Mr. Malone,
Yes.
Mr. Marshall,
Yes.
Mrs. McGrattan,
Yes.
Mr. Sebelia,
Yes.
Mr. Soms,
Yes.
Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Dombrowski.
Yes,
Nine
you
in
missed
favor.
I think you missed Mike.
Yes.
Okay, 9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Motion carries. Next item, Kevin?
Next item, I make a motion to authorize the mayor to enter into an agreement with the Providence Worcester Railroad Company for repairs to the Browns Crossing Road Bridge over the Providence Worcester Railroad.
Is there a second?
McGrattan seconds. Oh, am I muted?
No, you got
No,
it.
you're good.
Oh, okay.
Okay, this one's a little less well-known. This bridge is over in the Gales Ferry section of town. It actually is a one-lane bridge that crosses over the railroad tracks along the Thames River over to about 3 parcels on the other side Reading through some of the information is pretty interesting, seeing how the deed went from the New York, New Haven and Hartford Railroad over to Conrail, over to Province of Worcester and all the other kinds of things. But in this case here, the Province of Worcester Railroad is actually willing to pay for the full replacement of the bridge to current highway standards. The only liability to the town would be the continued maintenance as we are now.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Roxanne, would you
Wait,
call the roll?
sorry.
Whoops.
Sorry, just one quick question. Is the ownership of that bridge being transferred to the town?
Yes.
Okay.
Whoops. Tom, could you mute yourself, please? Roxanne, would you call the roll?
Mr. Malone,
Yes.
Mr. Marshall,
Yes.
Mrs. McGrattan,
Yes.
Mr. Sebelia,
Yes.
Mr. Soms,
Yes.
Mr. Washington,
Yes.
Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Dombrowski,
Yes.
Mrs. Ingles.
Yes.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Motion carries. Next item, I can move to authorize the mayor to sign a letter as prepared by Perkins Coie regarding tribal matters.
Councilor Dombrowski seconds.
Second, motion's been made and seconded. This involves the Bureau of Indian Affairs is going to be reviewing applications from tribes that were previously denied as far as petitioning for federal recognition. The letter in our area, that would be the Eastern Pequots in North Stonington. The letter will be signed by, the letter being prepared by Perkins Coie, would be signed by the Mayor of Ledger, First Selectman of North Stonington, and the First Selectman of the town of Preston. The letter basically asks that the towns be able to be consulted with as they have been in the past. And that is the just of what we are asking for. Are there any questions? Okay, hearing none, Roxanne, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Marshall,
Yes.
Mrs. McGrattan,
Yes.
Mr. Sebelia,
Yes.
Mr. Soms,
Yes.
Mr. Washington,
Yes.
Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Dombrowski,
Yes.
Mrs. Ingles,
Yes.
Mr. Malone.
Yes.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Motion carries. And that brings us to the end of the agenda. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Councilor Dombrowski.
I'll second that.
Motion's made and seconded. This meeting is adjourned without exception. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, good
Good night,
night.
everybody.
Have a good
Good
night.
night,
Night,
all.
everyone.